Hey everybody, what's up? Guess what? I got Spring Paranormal Investigators back in for another dip in Hank's Think Tank. How's it going, guys?
Good.
Great.
Okay, I got some extensive introductions to do, so I'm going to get on with it. I've got Amy Lee once again. She's a lead investigator and the owner and head clergy for SPI. Michelle Myrand, sensitive lead investigator. Jason Weiser. Come on, man. There you are. Lead investigator and assistant clergyman. Raider Dempsey. All right. Assistant debunker, full-time investigator. Lynette Coors.
Yeah.
Like the beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Full-time investigator and medium, and we're going to get into that in a minute. And Christopher Peterson, part-time investigator, behind-the-scenes tech, and band member.
Yes, sir.
And Josh Hudson, part-time investigator and debunker. It's my first time to meet Josh. How's it going, Josh? All right, guys. So y'all have been out a couple of times other than the time we did the podcast, and it's been an experience every time. This was really something else. Doing the clearing for me was a good deal. And I don't think I've ever been through anything like that before. It's going to be something I'm going to be recalling for quite some time, and I'm hoping we can get and do it again. It was different than I thought it was going to be. But just to mention something to you guys, and it's been a lot more quiet since the podcast in here, and I felt better because y'all kind of gave me a better idea of what to expect and what I should, be thinking about the spirit world and stuff like that. So it's helped a lot. But I've been doing some remodeling in here, and it's not really something that you guys may have noticed right off the bat, but in the middle of it, so I had the jams playing, I was listening to some music, up on the ladder, and all of a sudden the volume goes from I think I had it 10 to 50. And the remote was up there. I wasn't anywhere near it. And I was like, could that be again? And something like that's never happened before. And I mean, it's going to either take a remote or it's going to take the crank to do it. But I had to go and turn it back down, and it didn't happen again, but it did happen. That was this past weekend that it happened. So that kind of freaked me out. I wanted to tell you guys about it, but other than that, I really haven't had too much of anything else. And so it has been better. It's been good. So, it was interesting hearing from your medium today, and it was really kind of unusual. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. And the first question that comes to my mind is actually David's question. When did you realize you were a medium? I mean, born with it? Wake up one day and go, hey, I've got a talent. What's the deal?
No, I started with SPI. I've always kind of known certain things, but I think everybody's got intuition, so I chalked it up to that. And no, I wasn't seeing spirits everywhere. I didn't really think I could. And then I started doing things with the team, and I started noticing things, and we started getting confirmation of what, I thought was there. We got confirmation that those things were there. And it just it built over time is what happened. So yeah, I would say I've always been a little quirky with things, but it really took off after I joined here and started actively investigating with everybody.
And after a big demonic case that we did.
Yeah, that jump-started it for everybody, I think.
And so that was where you kind of really, I guess, self-seeded your talent and figured out, yeah, this is definitely something I have.
Yeah, that was an interesting case that's, I guess, still current, too.
Yeah. That one's still in the works 2 years later.
So does it bother you at all? I mean, do you wake up in the middle of the night and you've got something going on and you're like, I just need to get some rest?
Occasionally, right now, I almost have an off switch that's too good, because unless I turn it on, I don't notice anything. I'm dingy, I'll bump into walls because I feel like I'm always somewhere else, in a different mindset.
Wow.
But, unless something's really obvious, I tend to just, I'm at work, I don't pay attention to things. So I kind of have a switch that I turn on when I know we're going to be investigating. Yeah. But yeah, I've had things show up at my house. I think we all have, that try to scare us there. And that's pretty obvious because you know what's in your house, you know the sounds, and you can kind of feel if something is there that doesn't belong there. So.
Wow. So do you and Michelle get along? And do y'all have any kind of a minimal connection, I guess?
We were put in a meditation once together, and I remember that because one of the people that would help us put us both under together, and we were helping spirits together. That was pretty cool. And then the one summer that I had something terrorizing me, Michelle had something terrorizing her, but we didn't talk. And so our experiences were genuine because we were having the same things happen, but we weren't talking about it. I think each told Amy, and Amy's like,
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so how did you handle that then?
I handled it. I'd probably handle it differently now. I got a little angry, and I guess I still do sometimes, because I would come home from work and I would just look at my apartment. I would just look at the window, and with the blinds being closed, I'd be like, "There's somebody waiting there." And, I'm coming home from work, and they're waiting there. And I know it sounds crazy, but it happened a lot. And I'd open the door, and I'd be like, "Okay, who is it? What do they want?" But
Wow.
yeah. So that was interesting.
Man, that's a hard way to live. It seems like.
Yeah, I live alone. I mean, I like it. And like I said, I would handle it differently now than I did. It was pretty new back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember kind of coming out of the shower. I was in the shower, I was getting worked up about the spirit, and I remember I got out of the shower and I walked in my bedroom and I blah, 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 and you better be gone by the time I get finished with this shower. And I go back in the shower, and then I'm like, I come out later, I'm looking around the wall, I'm like, hey. He was gone, but I'm like, he's probably like, this lady is crazy. I'm leaving.
Yeah, from my experience, threatening them works.
I wouldn't.
It can.
I don't know why, but
I mean, last time you
I
were
don't
ready
recommend-
to go in a closet and fight one.
yeah,
so.
I was ready.
I don't recommend it. Like I said, I'd handle it differently now, but that's what I did then, and it worked. But that's not. I wouldn't do that.
That's cool.
I don't advise it. I advise against it.
I hear you guys are booked all the way through May. Is it?
We're through the middle to end of May right now.
Wow, well, that's a big schedule.
All new cases too, everyone.
All new cases. All in the area.
No, we're actually 2 weeks from now. We'll be in just a little south of Fort Worth, and then I have three actually, kind of down the chute that are. One is in Dallas, one is in Killeen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hear we have somebody from Utah that's maybe considering flying us up there. So
Wow,
all over.
getting popular.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about debunking. So, and he had told me a whole lot about debunking, but what do you guys work together on cases, I guess, or are you on different cases sometimes? And
It just depends on what lines up.
and so what do you do for your regular job, your day job?
I'm an apprentice electrician.
Apprentice? Ah, okay.
Comes in very handy.
Yeah, I bet that does. So do you find a lot of your debunking to be electrical problems? And
It's just a handful of everything.
Yeah.
Just, mostly noises.
He
Yeah.
has supersonic hearing.
Really?
His
Yeah.
hearing is ridiculous, and so he can be like, "Nope, that was a car," and we're all like, "What was that?" He's like, "That was a car 2 blocks away." I'm like, "Okay."
Well, that's cool. How's your vision?
He's like,
So yeah, that kind of opened up your hearing a little bit, I guess, huh? Yeah. Well, we didn't get to hear a whole lot from you last time. So what you got? Come on.
What I got?
My man.
I got problems. That's about the extent
Yes.
of it.
Stating the obvious.
Oh,
That was me. That was
yeah.
me.
No big deal.
That's you.
So, I mean, your job for SPI is
Pretty much I'm Amy's support.
Okay.
He's my jack of all trades.
Yeah. Anything that I can do, I'm going to do to help support the team in general. Whatever that may be.
so anything that she might forget, you're there to remember and tap her on the
I don't know,
shoulder.
she
And,
don't forget nothing.
yeah.
Forgets everything else. But
Yeah, right.
Except my phone. It's not an investigation unless I've lost my phone at least 3 times and said, "Where's my phone?"
Yeah, we're talking about bringing somebody on full time just to keep up with your phone. So if anybody's looking,
Well, I know you've got to find yourself in situations where you have to kind of cover each other because you're in a dangerous deal.
yeah.
You know?
and,
So,
you know,
I mean, do
it's-
y'all already have pre-established things that if this happens, we'll do this. If that happens, we'll do that. I mean, do you
To a
kind of
degree.
do any
Yeah.
training within the
it's-
organization yourselves?
I mean, we're a family. We know each other better than anybody else knows each one of us, and so it's easy for us to recognize if something's different. And that's a key part of our investigating is being able to pick up on subtle changes and things in each other, because that's where the real danger lies in what we do is the personality affection effects that the spirit
Right.
might have on somebody. And Amy is awesome at that, and she's pretty much taught all of us how to pick up on anything going on with anybody else. So
I think we all are. I mean, we've had cases where Michelle stopped and said, Chris is being affected. We've had cases where sometimes one of us will realize and be like, I can't be with you because the entity in this room is upset with you and they're going to try to make me lash out. So I should be teamed with somebody else at this minute. And I tend to notice changes in her before she notices them in herself quite often. We'll be 15 minutes out from a location and she'll be getting quiet in the back seat and I'll glance in my rear view, see a certain look on her face, and I'm like, Lynette, how you doing? And every time.
Yeah,
So I guess you're already kind of receiving?
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of times I'm in denial. It's like, I'm always like, is this really happening? And Amy will just look and she's like,
like we were on the way to the case just a week or so ago, and hit the brakes hard at one point, and Lynette was just half asleep in the back, and she chimes in. She said, "I don't want to die again." Okay, who was that?
Yeah, we had one case. We were out in the hill country that we did about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and she started channeling. It's usually about 20 minutes, anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes out. We start watching her, like, okay, it's coming.
And I don't know where we're going. I have no sense of direction, no sense of anything.
And we bring her in cold. I generally don't tell her much. She often will show up at my house, where are we going today? Oh, well, we're going to Jasper, or we're going to Galveston, or we're going here. She doesn't know. She doesn't know anything about it.
So no case layout or nothing?
No.
Just on your way?
No, because I'll have spirits visit me at home and give me information. And they usually go on ahead of me, and then I'll have information if they need it, and then I'll go in later to help clear. That's a lot of what we've been doing lately.
Wow.
The only thing she knows is if it's a demonic case or we have a really bad malevolent, I let everybody know ahead of time, this one's dangerous. Because I don't want anybody going into that not knowing. I mean, that's just fair. You should have that knowledge to say, okay, I want to deal with this or I don't. And these guys are all great about, of course they're going to do it. But I still give them if you don't want to do this, you don't have to do this.
Yeah. Has anybody bailed on anything in the past? Just said, I just can't do this one. It doesn't feel right.
It's happened once or twice in specific situations. Maybe that person was dealing with something personal in their life at the time. And, privately told me, and I said, don't worry about it. Chris actually does not like to deal with the demonic cases.
I can understand that, Chris. I'm right there with you. Yeah, I don't want to have nothing to do with that either.
I support them all, but I won't be there.
And that's part of why he's behind the scenes more these days, because more of what we're dealing with is malevolent and demonic most of the time.
Right. And I guess, so you're the audio guy, the video guy, and you're the guy that handles all their audio, video, and everything else, huh? That's got to be a tough job. So do you take care of devices like the REM Pods and stuff like that too, or?
No, it's just usually transferring videos and audio, and I watch stuff with Amy a lot, so she has a second ear when we're listening back on stuff. But
and he comes to the reveals with me a lot, like when we did your last one, where I have to go out alone. He'll come with me, either he or Jason usually will come with me on those.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, you brought a REM Pod today.
Yes, a couple of things.
I want to talk about that REM Pod. I don't understand what they do, how they work. I know they look cool.
Right.
So,
there are different kinds. There are different ones that do different things. This one, actually, these guys got me as a gift right before a big case. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit your mic there.
No, it's okay.
It's probably going to go off with the mic.
So, it's a proximity detector. Let me pull that up a little bit. Depending where I go and how close I am depends on what lights get set off.
Okay.
If I was a spirit, for instance. It also has a temperature detection on it. So it can detect if there's a cold spot or a hot spot right by it, as well as how close it is. So it's an EMF and a temperature gauge basically combined. And then it gives us a noise alert to let us know what's going on in case we're not looking at the device.
I like it.
It's a cool little toy.
And so can you set the sensitivity on it? I guess you can. Huh?
You can. There are switches, and of course I'm going to touch it. It's going to go off again here. But you can see there on the bottom, there's little sensors.
Hold that up for the for the cam.
Can kind of mess with it there, and you can change it. It's I think it goes up to, what was it, 2 feet? We said
About that, I think.
it can be a matter of short inches or up to 2 feet from the device.
And so, in theory, being that spirits are energy, they'll pass into or over this thing and make it go off, and then they can just back off. And
Right. And
Wow.
we encourage them to use that device. This device, of course, is an EMF meter of sorts. This is an older K2 when they
Okay.
were still made for electricians. Hence why I have the coin jammed in there, because that
wait a
keeps
minute.
it
Made for
balanced.
electricians? What? I don't get it. I didn't know that.
Yes, they would use it to go up and down the walls, check and make sure something was hot or
Okay.
not hot, what the danger level was, and that's what these were originally created for.
Really?
Only in the last few years.
He's always there to support it.
He is. Only in the last few years did it become a paranormal tool, and that's
Okay.
in large part due to the shows and that kind of thing.
And so, do they work on the same principle that the REM
Yes.
pod works?
And
Which
then
one do you think is more reliable? Or do you think it depends
I
on
would
the
say
spirit?
they all are, but it depends on the spirit. They definitely have preferences in what they like to use. We have some spirits that will only use the EMF detectors. We have others that will only use flashlights. It just seems
Wow.
to be a personal preference. This one's Michelle's that she kind of contributed. It's a Mel meter. It's a digital EMF. of sorts.
Ah, nice.
I'm gonna make you hold them.
Gotta do the whole show.
And so, how does that work?
I'm not Vanna White, sorry. So the same kind of principle. Here, it's getting a little off the bear. I don't know if you can see. But the numbers will go up. They should be flatlined at 0. You put it next to something that gives off EMF. Maybe Jason will. And the numbers will go up.
Okay.
And they can communicate with us that way. It is harder to see when we're in session, so we usually keep a camera trained right on it. And then when I review that, I have to watch the device closely.
Cool. Okay. And then the flashlight thing, how does that work?
The flashlights we use don't have any buttons. That way nobody can say that we've got something tied to it or we're doing this and that. We turn them on. Barely turn them off here. I'm going to get a good look at this. And then we shake it to make sure we don't get a false positive. We put it down in a flat spot and we walk away. And we have the camera trained on it the whole time so people can see we're not messing with it, we're not interacting with it. In order to turn it on, they have to come up and twist the edge, or it's another theory that they kind of beam their energy to it. Personally, I think they do both, and I think it depends on the entity, because there have been times we've been in session and we've seen it spin, or we'll go to pick up the flashlight and
Really?
it's freezing cold.
Wow.
Things like that. So sometimes I think they are physically manipulating it. Other times it seems like they're across the room and they're just kind of beaming the energy to it, so to speak.
What's crazy is like when we were doing a session out here by y'all's fire pit, Jason and I were the ones doing the session, and we were trying to get the spirit we were in communication with to use the REM pod. Couldn't seem to work the REM pod, but the flashlight's just fine.
3 flashlights.
3 flashlights, actually. But yeah, it all kind of depends upon the entity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the science in me always starts asking stupid questions. I can't help but think that if an entity had mass, that it would be a ball, for one. But I'm wondering what size they are, you know?
It seems to vary also.
Does it?
The energy of the spirit as well as the size of the individual when they were
Right.
an individual.
And I wonder if they decide upon that.
A lot of times they do. I mean, they
Yeah.
project themselves as the way that they saw themselves.
So maybe if you were a big spirit in life, you'll be a big spirit afterward. And if you were kind of quiet and,
Oh yeah, your personality.
reserve.
would be the
Personality
same.
definitely comes through in our sessions.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
wow.
Good or bad.
So, and that leads me to another question, and this one came to me, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago in the middle of the night. I woke up again, just started thinking about stuff. I wonder if, you know, I would think that if you're a decent, good person in life, that after death, you know, your spirit would maintain that. But I wonder if anybody ever returns just because of death. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Not necessarily because of death, but a lot of times the situations surrounding the death or situations in their life that they have unresolved issues that they're feeling guilty about or feeling remorse for, that type of things can affect, even though they were a good person, they've got these issues that
Right.
are affecting their spiritual life.
So not really a revenge thing then, I don't guess. Just more of a,
Can be.
Can be, yeah.
wow.
A lot of times, too, they may have issues, but the longer they're here, they start to work through those issues and get to a point where they kind of mellow. We try to help speed up that process when we talk to them so that they want to move on. Because that's what's better for them ultimately, and most of the time that's what's better for the clients. So.
Right. And I wonder if there's any that are just stuck here. I mean, just literally stuck here. They can't move on, even if they want to.
They could. We hold ourselves here.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I always say free will even in death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all think that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God's not just going to come down or an angel and pluck you and bring you back. You have to want to. You have to ask. You have to try. You can do what you want, basically, right?
Yeah.
But now she had mentioned in our last podcast that there were spirits that have, and that when you said it just made the hair on my neck stand up, that have never walked on this earth before.
Right. Inhuman spirits.
And so, how do you deal with something like that?
They're not all bad. Some of them are
Right.
just different.
Really?
I've seen things. We've seen things. I can speak for myself that I didn't even think existed, and I think everybody can say that too. I mean,
And you just
We run into new ones all the time.
Yep.
What is that? Okay, what is that trying to do? Is it bad? Is it good? Is it a problem?
and it has like an inability to communicate. So
some of them have lower intelligence.
Some of them
Wow.
do, and some of them are able
higher
to
intelligent.
communicate quite
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that seem tied to land and tied to the earth, and maybe they see themselves as a protector of a certain area. Or we ran into one recently that we weren't aware of. We're still not exactly sure what he was, but he didn't care for humans or spirits. He just wanted to be on the land left alone. Period. So we kind of struck a deal with him because he was not bad and he was not creating any problems per se, but it was a lot of pressure, just a very, very heavy presence. And we kind of struck up the deal of, well, you don't want to be here, you don't want to be around them, but you want a space. There's a swamp right down the road, and you can go hang out and have
Right.
all the space you want and not be bothered at all. And he seemed to take to the agreement. We're very grateful that he did.
But we talked about size. He's huge. He can take up like a whole field. Like not. He's more like, I don't know. What would you say?
The
Cloud
best
hanging above it? I don't know.
Yeah.
really,
It was
Wow, that's
more of an
bigger than I thought.
abstract shape to him from what she was able to describe, and it was just an interesting one, for sure.
He did communicate with us, though. He was very curious about what we were doing there, and he wanted to make sure that we weren't trying to send him anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
He let us know that if we attempted to do that, there would be a fight. But he didn't intend any harm to the family. He wasn't hurting anything where he was. He just needed his own space, per se. So
wow.
it
Interesting.
worked out.
So, Chris, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
During dinner, you and I had a kind of a brief conversation about how you and Amy met, and I kind of got the impression that maybe you hadn't delved too much into the paranormal part of anything earlier on in your life. So, at what
No.
point did you wake up and go, okay, well, this shit's real? You know, I mean,
First time I went with her.
That's my fault.
so it was the first time, huh?
Yeah, we went to was that the Hotel Ott?
Oh, the eye.
No, the
was a
first
long
one
time
was our
ago.
first SPI client,
Oh,
actually,
yeah,
that you went
yeah.
to.
And then the eye.
Out in the Heights.
I've been to the Odd Hotel. That place is creepy.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite
Oh, yeah,
paranormal photographs we have is from that hotel.
Really.
Yeah.
So what happened at the Odd?
Our first hunt, when I went with her the first hunt, I was like, yep, it's real. Because I've always been interested in it. And then when I met her, it was like, oh, okay, well.
So what did you see or hear that threw you over the edge?
That was probably the odd.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did y'all spend the night there or just do an investigation?
Yes, we
Yeah.
did. We had the whole upstairs, and then we went back actually a second time. They gave us part of the downstairs, some vacant apartments that tenants had just left.
Really?
So
Yeah.
we got to go in and check
Wow.
those out too. That was neat.
Because we had the whole floor, right? Nobody
The
could come
whole
up.
upstairs,
And we
yeah,
would each
just
take a
us.
room, and we'd go in the room, and we'd investigate in small teams like we always do. And we'd close the door, and each of us would be in our rooms, like in small groups of maybe 3. And we'd hear like I remember hearing like cowboy boots or like somebody was pushing like an
Walking up and
armoire
down
the
halls.
hallway, and it was loud. To me, it sounded real. Like I opened the door and I'm like, there's somebody out here. And every time it happened, we would check, and there's nobody in that hallway. But I guess I thought that it would sound not real, like spirit noises, but it sounded real, and it kept going on. There's never anybody out there.
Wow.
Yeah, we had
So-
a Native American girl gave us a great EVP from the hallway, but she
Right.
fried my tape recorder, so
Yep.
after that I couldn't use it.
Ah.
At least I
that's
got
too
the EVP. We managed to salvage it.
Yeah, a lot of voices, a lot of noises.
Did you have? I heard there's supposed to be a female there that likes to mess with the guys. Did any of you guys have
like a
experiences
succubus?
with that
Yeah.
at the yacht?
I didn't.
No.
We did.
Yeah,
we
so
did
it's-
make contact in that room.
I don't
I
remember.
can't remember who did and what we got. We didn't get as much in that room as we did in
That
the
was
lot.
Yeah,
so
I
long
remember
ago.
the room now, but yeah.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's
that
a
we were
creepy
there.
old place.
There's the photograph I was talking about earlier. They have a mirror against one wall, and it was a photograph taken in light like this, good lighting, and so it wasn't like it was a flash in the dark or anything like that. But you can actually see what looks like people in the mirror, like doing their own thing. It's
Looking
crazy.
out towards
Yeah,
the person
Right.
who's taking the picture.
it was.
It was
Creepy.
like
Yeah,
three
two
different
to three
scenes
different- yeah,
from
it's-
different time
yeah.
periods.
One guy, and they were all in like different dress and stuff. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't we get the history on it? Like they said, it used to be a chop shop during the Civil War. It had been
It,
a
it
hospital.
was a lot of
civil
things.
hospital.
It was a Native American burial ground.
Yeah.
And then the white man came in.
I used to not believe in Native American burial grounds. I think we all do. You
Oh,
got to
no,
respect
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
This area is supposed to be a Native American
Yeah, you want
burial
to be
ground.
respectful
So
for that. Not you, just in general.
I got you. Yeah, but
And yeah, and
that's
then,
always kind of freaked me out a little
then
bit
they have
too.
some Civil War stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
There were battles that were fought there. The structure that was put there was originally like a it wasn't a hotel. It was something else.
It's been a couple
But they
different
had
things.
they had the Civil War soldiers they were bringing in, and yeah, they called it a chop shop.
Which is a
Literally,
horrible name.
Wow.
I mean, just amputees
Right.
and that kind of thing. And then after the war, they made it a Christian cemetery. A few years later, the way that was in town, they decided that property was too valuable to be a cemetery. So we're going to relocate all the headstones. Leave all the graves, but we relocate the headstones down the road, make
Wow.
a nice looking little cemetery,
Yeah.
and then we're going to build, there's a train station over here, so we're going to put a hotel in for all these people coming off the train. And that's how the hotel got where it was.
Ah,
That's never a good plan.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was not a good idea.
yeah, I don't
Not
think
a
so
good idea
either.
at all.
So back to you again, and I got to ask. So when you came to the conclusion that all this is solid, did it change your worldview? I mean, I would think it would have. You know, your view of life and death and the afterlife and heaven and hell and all that.
Not really. I mean,
So you had a pretty solid upbringing then, I guess, huh?
yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
No, it changed mine, and I still go
Did
into
it?
each case a little bit with denial, but I think that's good. Like, okay, I need to. I don't know. Amy probably knows what I mean more than.
It's all about keeping an open mind.
Yeah.
And I when I started was it's black and it's white. And I had to pretty quickly go, no, that's not right. There's just this whole other level of stuff that we never even
Right.
comprehended here that could very well exist. And
Yeah,
now I
anything
try to
that-
look at all of it openly. Could be anything, could be good, could be bad, could be. Even if we come across Inhumans, I can't jump to it's negative just because it's Inhuman.
Right. Yeah, the only thing that bothers me about that whole concept is it's the everything all for me concept.
Mm-hmm.
If one thing is possible, then damn it, it's all possible.
Right.
You know, so that opens up way too much.
That
And I'm
is
too
really
much
the
of a
truth.
middle of the night thinker because I'll wake up at 3 o'clock and one little thing will enter my mind and yeah, I'm looking at the clock and it's 4:30, then it's 5, then I finally start falling asleep at 6 and I got to get up at 6:30. So,
Yeah,
You know,
if
that always
anything,
sucks.
It opened me up to, it's very unknown, and it's, you're never going to be able to learn everything about paranormal. I don't think.
That's kind of
Definitely.
That's kind of how I looked at it, because I mean, growing up with her for a mom, I kind of and having my own more heavy experiences as a kid, I always kind of grew up believing, but there was some stuff that happened and stuff that I've seen while on the team, and I wouldn't say it changed my worldview so much as it expanded it. There was just the level of possibilities, like you were talking about. It just shot through the roof.
Yeah, we always we learn something new on every case. We think we're going into a case and says, well, this seems pretty cut and dry, a routine case, and we always get thrown some kind of a curveball, and we're constantly coming up with theories.
But we like that.
Right? Yeah, that's what keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
We're all open to it, so
It's a constant learning experience.
Yeah.
Every time down the track, ooh, I didn't know they could do that, or ooh, I didn't know that existed.
Yeah.
If you ever meet he had an interview right before I interviewed him, and the guy who interviewed him for another team told him, well, I know everything about the paranormal, so, this and that. And when he interviewed with me, he mentioned that, and I said, well, whatever team you join, I said, I'll definitely take you. I said, but don't join his. And he looked at me, why not? And I said, because anybody who tells you they know everything about this is not being legit, or they're very unaware. It's just not possible.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, you have to constantly be open.
So, Michelle, you're being quiet over there.
It's unusual.
Yeah.
I wish we could learn this trick for home.
So I want to ask you this. We
sibling
touched
rivalry.
upon religion a little bit in the last podcast. So knowing what you know, has it changed your view of religion at all? Has it enhanced it? And I got a second part to this question that's going to be a total curveball.
Okay.
So when you throw some science into it, like let's say the possibility that aliens are out there and the possibility that there are other beings from other worlds coming this way that isn't a heaven or a hell.
Yeah.
I mean, where are you at with all that? Because those two things do kind of conflict. So how do you manage that?
Well, I don't know if you remember in the last interview, I said my mom was very Catholic and my dad was an atheist.
Right.
But they both believed in aliens. So I'm not real big. I'm not real big on religion. I think I'm probably one of the people on the team that's kind of the more spiritual side. I don't do organized religion. I just don't follow that kind of thing. And I don't believe that we are the only ones here, in the universe. So, yeah.
So you're
And I like that. Not all of my people are Christian, and that was on purpose. I want different viewpoints. Something I might think of as a Catholic, she may not think of being more spiritual, but she may think of something else. And either one of us could be right. But I want those different viewpoints. That's what helps us be more open-minded and get to what is it really past our own mental ideas of what is and isn't.
There have been disputes in our own household between her and I on differences in religion. Because personally, I believe man has a lot of things right on certain religion, but I don't believe everybody's got the whole picture. I go with what I see. If this is the information I'm being provided with, okay. But I'd never count anything out. Whereas she's more steadfast.
Yeah. So I guess you were brought up a little bit more Catholic, I guess.
Yes.
So was it a stringent Catholic upbringing, or?
Not really. My dad is very much religion is a personal thing to him. He believes you don't discuss it with other people. Didn't even like to discuss it with us, his kids, when we would ask a question. I have some idea what he believes, but he was not for the church or any of that. This is a private thing. If I want to pray, then I'll do that at home in my own time, privately.
Right.
Period. My mom was brought up very Catholic. When we were little, she had us, go to church regularly and all. And by the time she had all three of us, and, you've got a little one who's always hungry, me, I'm still always hungry. It just got to be difficult getting us all to church. My brother was much older. He was starting to work, and there was a conflict there. So she kind of gave up on that. But the idea, the religion, we could always go to her, and I think everybody in my family kind of diverged with their own beliefs from that. I am still very much about the religious beliefs of the Catholic Church, even though what I do has definitely expanded my mindset to know that there are other things. That being said, I do have a lot of issues with the church itself. There are certain Catholic priests that I have worked with. I have the utmost respect for them. There are others I have run across that I do not agree with at all. And I've let it be known that I don't agree with. I just have a problem with any church, regardless of what religion. The idea that someone has to be a member of your church and they have to go sit and they have to pay money every week in order for you to help them. I personally don't think that's what God had in mind when he said help your fellow man.
Right.
If he's sitting there giving you money every week. I have a
Right.
very big problem with spiritual leaders who will not help people that come to them asking for help. I try to kind of stick it to them and make them do their job. I don't have the fame that Ed Warren had. He was great at doing that. God bless him. But for me, I hit a point where, okay, that's as far as it's going to go. And that's as much as they're going to do. And in some cases, that's just not enough. And so that's part of why we took on doing more of the clearings and the exorcisms now and the things that we're doing, because there was a need and somebody has to answer that need.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm really starting to get a really good idea of why this is such a dynamic group. Everybody's got their own individual additive to bring to this whole mixture of stew, and it seems to be working really good for you guys too. So I think it's really good. So it's odd that because all the paranormal shows and everything else that we always see on TV always go back to spirits being kind of either neutral or just on the edge of malevolent. You know what I mean? But y'all deal with the really bad stuff. So how often, let's say out of 100 cases, how many would be just bad? And is that the people that just standard call you guys, or?
Well, define
or
bad.
Well, here we go. Bad would be, I'm running out of the studio and I don't want to come back in here for a while. Bad would be, I'm waking up and I have scratches. Bad would be, that just terrible things are happening. And something she had brought up in the last podcast was that spirits won't just straight out attack you. They'll break you down over a period of time. Mm-hmm. So bad would be that. Noticing that something is just constantly picking.
Right.
And so, how often do y'all come across that versus, situations like mine where it's just people who are just kind of still stuck here?
Some of it's a lot of it's the human perception of bad. Like there's like people, something's trying to chase me out of here, or they think something's picking at them trying to break them down, when it's merely something trying to get their attention and is getting frustrated that it can't.
And nobody's going to call us unless they perceive it as
bad.
bad.
Yeah,
Right.
Exactly.
So from the client's perspective, it's bad.
It's always bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Most of the people who call me, the first thing out of their mouth is, don't think I'm crazy. I have demons. No, you probably don't. You probably don't. I can't say they definitely don't. We've run into them. They're out there, but most of the time that's not the case. But our perception is tainted, especially in this country. You have the horror movies. You have the ghost shows that are amping things up for dramatics. The common thought is, ooh, it's a ghost, it's bad, it's scary, it's evil.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Not necessarily. Most of the time, they're people. And like you said before, if you were good in life, you're probably good in death. Most of them are strictly people that just want help. They got stuck here for whatever reason. They want to cross over. They don't know how, or they need help to work through an issue, and that's all they want. And I like to use the physical analogy to explain it to people a lot of the time. If I'm a ghost and he's not sensitive, I can go up to him and I can sit here and I can do this. Come on, listen to me, talk to me. He can't hear me. He can't feel me. He can't see me. But I go up to her, and she's got this incredible ability. Ow, that hurt. Let me pick up the phone. This thing just attacked me, and it's hitting me in the arm. See, now that's perceived as I'm an evil ghost who's trying to attack her. In truth, I just realized she could feel me. And I wanted attention. I wanted help.
Wow.
And that's how that goes. But without that conversation and without that knowledge there, anybody is going to think, oh my God, that thing just walked up and hit me. It must be bad.
Yeah, I
Most of
hadn't
the
thought
time,
of it
no.
that way.
And a lot of people also think like death has this kind of finality to it. Like you're over that whatever you believe in, you cross over to whatever your heaven or hell or. But a lot of times, like we've experienced times where spirits have come back from the other side just to visit and pop in and say, "Hey, how you doing?" Stuff like that. Or that everyone, when they realize that death isn't final, there's this thing attacking. It goes against their kind of perception of the natural order of things, and that can kind of scare people. So the general perception towards it is negative.
And that's
Hadn't
part of
thought
where
of
the
that.
knowledge is power. Again, that old
Right.
expression.
The unknown.
When
Wow.
you know something and you know what's in your house, and you realize the thing that I thought that was evil and attacking me is this poor child spirit that died of the measles or something that just wants my attention and my help, then you get endeared towards what's in your house. Now you have a kinship with the spirit. You feel sorry for them. You want to help them. And often, like you were saying, during the course of the investigation, those relations will change as the person learns more about the people, so to speak, in their home or their workplace or whatever it may be. And there's a softness that goes with that. You start to feel for them. You start to care about them like you would with other people. And it's amazing how the relationship can change just when that happens.
Well, that's cool. That's cool.
But I guess to more specifically answer your question,
Yeah. We get off on tangents.
probably, I mean, about 50% has something that appears to be bad initially.
Really, that's a lot,
I
would think.
Yeah, I mean, appears. Now, it could just be an upset spirit, unsettled spirit for some reason not directed at you personally. They just are upset for whatever reason it may be. But usually, probably 90% of the time or more, by the end of the case, everybody feels sorry for this particular spirit that originally seemed bad. And they turn essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I will say, we get more, I think, of the negative, the being scratched and those kind of things than most teams do. Just because we are a specialty team and we have that, written in all of our deals. So we get more of those calls than the average team would. So our negative quotient, for lack of a better word, is higher probably than most.
Well, that's cool. So, Michelle, let me ask you this. Have you gotten any information from the other side that you didn't expect or any information about the afterlife that you didn't know? Like, it's peaceful here, it's not peaceful here. Damn, it's hot here. I'm wet all the time. Just anything like that at all?
The thing is about that when they do come back and they do talk to you, it's almost like they are not allowed to talk about that kind of stuff.
We've tried.
You get vague answers.
They
I
get,
think.
that they're happy and they're comfortable, but if you ask a specific, what does it look like? Is it an actual place? You won't get a response. They won't say. It's almost like they don't want to give out that information. So,
Or perhaps we
Or
can't
they
comprehend it.
right? Yeah. We're not ready.
Yeah, 'cause we're limited to our senses?
Allowed to know, personally. I think there's things we're not allowed to know.
Even then, though, not so much the human spirits, but all of the non-human entities tend to be very cryptic because they have a lot more knowledge of it. But it's almost like they're either not allowed to disclose, or it's really weird. They're always cryptic with their answers when it comes to.
Or maybe they are answering it, and we're just not understanding it.
Yeah.
We are not as enlightened.
I think we're limited in our capacity, so maybe they're dumbing it down a little.
Yeah. they're like, this being is going to get scared.
Do you think that's what it is,
if
or
we
you
say
think
this,
there's
so
another
let's leave it at
purpose?
this.
I think there's probably multiple reasons, like everyone here said. I think it's probably all those reasons, really.
Wow.
I mean,
That's
you kind
freaky.
of get in religious beliefs with certain things, like I thought like once you crossed over to heaven, things were perfect, and we've received information, and anybody can correct me, and this is open to interpretation, that once you cross over, you still work on yourself. It's, nobody's holding the whip to you. It's more
Hank was
self-driven, but
expecting
you seek to improve, it seems like, right? Even when you cross over.
Well, she described it kind of as her interpretation from kind of, she almost kind of goes to the gate. You saw this earlier when
Right.
we did this. As close as you can get without being there. And she's done that as well. It almost seems like there are levels of heaven, I think is the way that you describe
Right.
it. Which to me is interesting because why not? You have choirs of angels. You have demonics that are in different standing. There's a hierarchy on both sides. So why wouldn't there be levels to heaven? It's an interesting thought, but
Like what
It
you're
would
ready
make
for.
sense.
It's not like God.
So that
made
would
your
almost
paper.
bring
You get to see
reincarnation
when
into
you get
it.
to stay at the bottom.
Possibly.
Because you'd have to earn your next level.
That's
Not
Right.
really.
See,
You know?
I think it's about.
self-driven. Yeah.
I think it's about knowledge. Like last time I was here, we were talking. You had a friend that said it was about the circle of life, or the,
Right.
I very much believe that. I do believe that in reincarnation, and I do believe that we come and we live these lives because we have to experience everything there is to experience to be able to become enlightened once we are done. And those, last thing, like Amy was saying, with the different levels, I think it's the different levels of enlightenment, it's the different levels, of your soul. And, you learn, it's all about knowledge. I'm sure Lynette has, and I relived many of my past lives, and there was a lesson in all of them, and so I think that's how I feel. That's what I think. It's all about gaining knowledge, and whatever God you believe in, or whatever, it's to get as much knowledge as you can, so you can become part of that, of the one or the higher power, or
Wow. Sounds like a journey. Yeah.
You asked a question
deep.
earlier, that I wanted to answer. Like
Okay.
you said, like how has it changed our views? My mom died in 2000, and I feel like I'm gonna cry. It crushed me. It really did.
she's had a rough year.
Yeah.
And I thought, I believed in God and heaven, but I really felt like I wasn't gonna see her again. And Michelle knows. She's not gonna speak for her, but she's had losses like I have, as just everybody has, or will go through. And it just feels like it's a horrible feeling. Well, I wasn't doing what I do now back in 2000. As I explained earlier, I think we've all kind of gradually grew up into this. And my dad died in November. And of course I miss him, but there's no question, because of what we do like weekly, that I'm gonna see him again. There's no question. And so, although I'm still sad, obviously, and it's still, it's upsetting. I don't worry about that anymore. That's been, I think, removed, which is nice.
Yeah, that sounds like a good deal.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to see my folks again too.
Yeah, you will.
So that'd be great.
Yeah.
I lost my mom in 2010 and my dad in 2012.
Yeah, that's
So-
hard.
Yeah, it was tough. It was real tough. And they lived here on the property, so that made it even harder, you know.
Right.
But I do hope that there is something after this, I'm still skeptical. And I think I'm always going to be, because I have more of a scientific brain pattern than most people, but I'm really hoping. And I'm hoping that through my life, I'll get a little bit more evidence that there is. I've already had a lot of experiences. You can ask my wife. I've had a bunch. And you'd think that I'd be the one staunch guy who'd be saying, oh, yeah, there's no doubt. But I'll doubt it while it's happening. So
Yeah.
I'm just that
We
type
all
of
do.
person.
We all
Yeah.
do.
We all do.
Yeah. We
You know?
still do, I think.
We
I think that's what
perfect
probably
example.
makes y'all such a great group, though,
We
is that
got
you're willing to
some
question it
experience.
while it's going on.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
And that's extremely important. You don't want to just bounce around, attributing everything
No.
Yeah.
to being paranormal. That's where debunking comes in.
Yes.
So important, because it adds credibility to the team and the findings of the team when we can dispute our own
Right.
evidence.
Right.
That also kind of goes hand in hand with what one of the first things we talked about, knowing each other so well. Because if we're going in a negative mindset, what any of us could perceive as a negative spirit might not be that. We might just kind of be feeding our own emotions into it and not seeing it clearly. So being able to recognize the changes in the moods in each other helps us to be able to accurately discern what's actually going on.
Yeah.
We had a case, we were working maybe 3 weeks ago now, where Lynette and I were locked in a room.
Yeah.
And at the time, we all had our different emotions going through it. Actually, these two guys, Jason and
If
Ray,
break down a door is an emotion, then I definitely had it.
They were on the outside. We were on the inside.
Right.
Yeah.
They were in a room. They called us. They radioed. We've got something really weird going on here. It was a bad night. You could feel it going into it. Like, we dealt with the nice guys the first time. The second night was the other side of
And
it.
this was the first session of the night.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
we
you could
just
feel
started.
it before we started. But they called us and they said, if y'all can stop what you're doing, can you come in and help us decipher what's going on here? And we were almost done. We had somebody with us, but he actually communicated via a few EVPs, we found out later, but he wasn't really interacting with the gear. So yeah, we'll be right there. So we thanked him. We turn everything off. We go to leave the room. Door went open. Door didn't have a lock on it. So it wasn't like somebody pressed a lock. There wasn't a lock on the door. The door didn't even move. The handle barely moved. And I mean, I was putting a lot of pressure on it, and she saw me. I was definitely, because I'm thinking it got stuck. But then I'm realizing this door isn't even responding. And it wasn't a high-grade construction door by any means.
Yeah, it's an old, farmhouse.
It was as if somebody had glued the door into the frame, and it wasn't budging.
Yeah, there wasn't even any play on it at all. And when we went back last weekend, I went up to the door and I closed it just like we had, and I tried to see if there was any give. There was give. It's like it didn't make sense. And he and I went trying to get him out. He was jiggling the handle trying to get in. I was braced up against the door pushing to see if I could get any give on it. Nothing. It was almost like a completely different door.
So how'd you get it open?
That wasn't us.
Don't leave me
Interesting part
hanging.
of the story.
That's where one of those temperamental tantrums comes in, and that was me. And this one's in the corner watching everything, trying to figure out if this is rational or if this is paranormal, and everybody just calm down, and he's outside. Jason, move, I'm breaking the door down, my mom's in there, and this one's sitting there. Well, calm down, there's a window, if we need to we can do
That's
this.
what I thought. There's a window.
I'm in the room and I'm mad because I'm locked in there, and at this point I'm watching everybody and I'm going, this is definitely paranormal. So me and my mouth, I lost it a little bit, and I basically said
a little.
I basically said, you're going to open this door. I can pull out this Latin ritual right now and we can go at it. And immediately after saying that, I walked up to the door. I put my hand on the knob. Hadn't even started to turn it yet. And the door flew. And they all saw me move back with it.
It's like
flew
somebody
open
kicked
and
it.
pushed me back.
Yeah.
The spirit, I think, honestly, almost kind of realized it was reaching an ultimatum point because
Yes.
Jason was about to say, let's go around to the window. I was bracing, getting ready to kick it down, and she was about to start going it. So it was like the perfect culmination of events at the same time, and it's just like, all right, I'll let the door open. And it didn't just open. It flew open,
I don't think
really
they have so
fast.
much strength, so he probably couldn't have held that on for too long. They only have so much strength at intervals, right? I think that's what we think.
Yeah, and he actually, last weekend, we cleared that very spirit. He apologized. No ill will. We understood. He explained why he did what he did, and we're happy that he's happy and moved on now. But we got our confirmation. It was definitely paranormal. But even in the minute, everybody had a different reaction, and we were second-guessing things. And
That's a good story.
We got a lot of those.
The guy's story was interesting. The spirit.
Yeah,
They usually are.
They usually are.
I would think so. So, Josh, let me ask you this. Have you ever debunked something that everybody else thought was paranormal, and you said, no, it's this? I mean, is that just straight up happen? Come on, you got to get props where you can.
It's been a while, but
It does seem like it's happened.
I think
there's
maybe that
instances here
case
and
in
there.
spring, maybe? I want
Yeah,
to
the
say
one
there was something
we
else.
were inside the room and we heard somebody outside the door.
Yeah.
Because it was such a noise that it was obvious. It wasn't the vent. It wasn't the air conditioner getting on. There was somebody outside the other side of the door. I mean, it was just obvious. Like, you can feel when somebody's fixing to step through the door. You know, you got that little creak, that little
Right.
And I couldn't make it happen again. After we was done, that's the first thing we started doing, was trying to see. I had her sitting on the other side of the door, just putting as much pressure as she could, walking around, seeing if she could do it, and we couldn't get it.
We tried a bunch of different scenarios that night because we radioed the other team. Just hang tight where you are. You're gonna hear some weird stuff.
It was
Yeah.
so
We were like,
obvious
what are
that
they
something-
doing?
He would be like, okay, run down the hall now. Okay, now like tiptoe down the hall. Now like kind of knock into the wall as you're walking down the, you know.
Honestly,
Walk on one foot down there.
I think a lot of it we kind of almost debunk when we go in, because they'll like to do walkthroughs around the property to kind of get a sense of things. And while they're doing that, a lot of times we'll be looking at the house or going through, and they were doing an EMF sweep, and we'll see, oh, this door has a noticeable creak to it, or these floorboards are creaky. When we looked up in the attic, there's some rafters that aren't quite aligned and they're creaking. And like there was when we went on the investigation in Fresno, you and I were both looking at the house from the outside, noticing like every little problem, tearing it apart.
You just described my house. Well, guys, it's been fun. And I wanted to let everybody know that it's an unusual experience to get this entire group together.
Yes.
And it took a couple of months, but we finally made it happen. And so if you're watching this, and you're part of an elite group. But I appreciate every one of you coming. I appreciate the clearing, the investigation, and the knowledge. I feel a whole lot better about stuff. So, guys, if you've recently subscribed to the channel, I appreciate it. And I think I'm at 200 now, so we're on our way. And if you saw something tonight that you liked, hit that like button. Spring Paranormal Investigators is reachable through their Facebook page.
Yes.
So if you want to look them up and get them out to solve your problem, they'll certainly come take care of it. And once again, y'all have a good one. We'll see you in the next one. And I think the next one's going to be shot tomorrow. Me and Mark Hogan are going to talk about fire for our preparedness series. So thanks again, guys, and we look forward to having you back out in the next month or so.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, y'all take care. I'm out.